I'm only 45 minutes late. You guys are really close. Wow. There we go. How about that? Oh, now you're far away. See if anybody logs on here. Give it a minute before I get started. I did say I was going to do this at 8 o'clock, and now it's 8:45. So I am quite late. But better late than never. It's been a very busy day. So we'll chill here, see if anybody shows up. I may have missed the window. Oh, I got somebody here. Unless it's myself watching it. How's it going? Didn't even tell me who's here. You guys are really close. Wow. Let's see if I can back you up some. There we go. You don't need to be that close to me. All right. I do not have my computer with me, so I can't really monitor the chat. I can see it come up on the screen here. But I do not have... oh, I even got a thumbs up. Damn. Go ahead and tell me in the chat. Erdy Hershey. Erdy Hirsch. Salamin, I don't know that language. You have to translate that for me, brother. Is that a hello? How's it going? How you doing? There we go. Now we got some people coming in. Yeah, I guess late than never. Oh, it's Turkey. Merhaba. That's all I know. Merhaba. Something like that. Yeah, that's all I know in Turkish. So I apologize if you can't understand a word I say. Colleen. Hello. How's it going? Merhaba. See? I got it right. Well, there's a few people popping in. Oh, look, now we're jumping up. I guess everybody's available on Sunday night. Last time I did this, well, last week I did it at 8. And MLK Jr. or Harry Tubman would win a freak off if they both on honey packets. Who do you think? MLK or Harry Tubman? I don't know, man. My money's going to have to be on Harry Tubman. She's tough. I mean, MLK was no joke. He was smart. You know, he knew how to negotiate, but, you know, Harry Tubman, you know, she was tough. She came from that tough generation. So I don't know. That's kind of like asking who would win in a prison fight, a taco or a peanut butter jelly sandwich. You know, it's like apples and oranges. But yeah, but I know who both of those people are. I never met them, obviously. I'm way too young for that. MLK Jr., I think if it was a negotiation, he would probably win that one. I think Harriet Tubman was more of a get-her-done kind of person. So, am I a religious man? Maybe, I guess. I mean, I certainly was raised with my beliefs. So, you're not going to preach to me on my YouTube live, are you? Or try to sway me into some other religion? I did go to I was raised Lutheran. And I went to this Pentecostal church once. It was a little strange. You know, and your uncle looks exactly like me. Could be my twin. Oh, that's cool. They say there's a doppelganger out there for everybody. Yeah, back to what I was saying. I probably in my early 20s, I think, I went to a Pentecostal church. You know, my grandmother was looking for a new church in an area that she had just moved to, and we were checking out all the different churches. And it was different. You know, it was strange to me. I have a relative, a cousin, who is Southern Baptist. And I had asked him, you know, I had to ask him some questions about it because when I went to this Pentecostal church, they asked me if I was baptized. And of course, you know, I'm Lutheran. I was baptized when I was a baby. And you pissed everywhere? Oh, okay. That's I guess when we're babies, we do that. So yeah, when I was, and I was baptized when I was a baby, uh, and he told me this pastor at this Pentecostal church, he said, "Oh, it doesn't count." I said, "What do you mean it doesn't count?" He's like, "Well, you can't be baptized till you're an adult." Well, that doesn't make any sense. They wanted me to sign up for this baptism thing they were doing, and I declined. Um, but I had asked my cousin, and he's a pastor at a Southern Baptist church, and I'm your favorite streamer. Don't go bald. No, we're good. I still got some up there. A lot less than I had when I was younger, but I got some. Uh, and he had told me that it's one of the things with all the different religions is for some reason they all think they're right, and none of them are right, but none of them are wrong. They all just have their different interpretation. So again, to answer your question, am I a religious man? Yes, to a point. Um, Russian Crow, how's it going, brother? I saw in the news, if you are in Russia, you guys unleashed some pretty big weaponry over there. That's impressive. So, but anyway, yeah, we'll let a few more people roll. Now we're down to 3. We were up to 30 some. I guess people popped in and popped out. Jahan Vibes Mix, hello. How's it going, brother? You're peeing currently? That's too much information, brother. I'm a Gen Xer. You don't need to tell us that. You just go do your business. We'll wait. I'm the one, mother. Oh, wait. It went too fast, man. Hold up. Let me see if I can tell. I got fucked up by an A-core. Oh, really? I don't even know what that is. Today, your grandpa died. Oh, that sucks, man. Yeah, I've lost both my grandparents. I was pretty close to both of them. That sucks. Uh, yeah. Grab the screen for a Lamar Jackson edit. Why would I want to do that? I doesn't see it. Oh, see, I can't sit here and read up all these comments. All right. I hope my mom doesn't see it's on the wall. Yeah, the pee on the wall. Yeah. You might want to clean that up, man. You know that ain't cool. Peeing on the wall. Jesus loves me. Yes, he does. He did. He loves everybody. That's the thing about him. He's a cool dude. He loves everybody. You think peeing on the wall is art, dude? Okay. I will never invite you to my house. Jesus isn't his name. Oh, okay. I mean, I'm not sure how we know that. That's really what it says in the Bible. His name was Jesus Christ. So, what makes you have confidence in the Bible? Oh, hold up. It's going too fast. Let him do his artwork at my house? Oh, hell no. My wife would have my balls in a damn stringer. What makes you have confidence in the Bible and that God of the Bible is real? It's called a belief. It's kind of what you believe. Do I believe that? Let me see if I can find you an example and try to explain belief to you. Letter J in his language. Oh, okay. No letter J. All right. Well, maybe there was a pronunciation for it. How the hell do I know? The book was written 2,000 years ago. And how many times has it been translated? And do we even know it's really accurately translated? Come on, man. Use some common sense. Christ is a title? See, I never heard that before. Different religion. Yeah, faith. You're right, Ubercraft. Faith, not belief. Faith. That's another thing. How do I know? Because it's faith. We're taught what we're taught from a young age. We're taught to have faith or we're taught to have beliefs. Bob, his name is translated to English. And of course, he didn't have an English name. Well, of course not. Was there even English people when the dude lived? It was like, over 2,000 years ago. Would I rather watch a tree grow or a knee grow? That's funny. You got me on that one because I read it out loud. That's pretty good, man. Yeah, there was no English people back then. What was the story? The Tower of Babel, I think. If I'm remembering correctly, there was a tower where there was basically one race or one culture of people or whatever, and they wanted to build this big tower and go see God and ask him some questions or whatever, and he got all pissed and shook the ground and the tower fell and he made everybody run in different directions, speaking different languages, and the only way, and this is where it gets weird because my belief or how I was raised, in the Lutheran faith, ends up being a little bit different than, what a lot of other people think that, when it comes to like speaking in tongues, that was never something I was really accustomed to. So basically, he appointed these dudes that could go around from culture to culture that all spoke different languages, and he could communicate with them. This person could, to try to spread the word, and because it was like speaking in a foreign language, that's how they came up with speaking in tongues. And I didn't know that till recently. So anyway, is Donald Trump? Oh hell no, Donald Trump ain't Jesus. What kind of stupid question is that? Jesus died 2,000 years ago, man. Donald Trump's just some dude from New York, made a lot of money in real estate. Then he got popular on TV and he ran for president. Granted, he may have this country's best interests, or at least for the most part, his country's best interests as a priority, but he still ain't no damn anything to worship. Jesus didn't die? Really? From Germany. Come on, man. Kaylee, no reason to use that kind of language in the chat. The Bible is also very different from other brothers. The very translation. See, I've always questioned that. You're talking about a language, a book that was written in a language that's been dead for thousands of years and it had to be translated. How do we know the translation's even right? So believe me, I have my beliefs, but I don't want to sit here and talk about religion all day long. I want to ask a question. Everybody pay attention. I want to ask a question. Can anybody give me the answer to who is the original prepper? I'll give you a minute. And I'm not talking about a person. We're talking about like a group of people. Who were the original preppers? Crunch, how are you? I'm good, man. How you doing? Noah? Yeah, kind of. Yeah, Noah was the original prepper. But let's not quite go back that far. Let's just go back to a time where, most of us or some of us were alive, or at least the next generation was alive. In fact, I'm not even going to sit around and wait for the answer. I'm going to tell you. Women. It was brought to my attention earlier today. You're okay almost? All right, well, I'm okay almost half the time. Then the Indians, yep, they were good preppers. But women, for generations now, women been canning food and making clothes, and it's kind of where it all stems from. And let's go back at least into what is the topic today's live stream. It's not Jesus, gays, and Donald Trump. Hell no. It ain't going to be Jesus, gays, and Donald Trump. The hell kind of bullshit is that? Right now we're talking about the original preppers. And some people said, Noah, the dude that built the ark, he was the original prepper. And yeah, I guess that does, answer that question correctly. And then they said the Indians, they kind of were pretty good at prepping. I'm basically saying that women, greetings from South Carolina. Hey, Guy Johnson. You should, my friends, Chris Morrissey. You should give a shout out to Chris Morrissey and Nick Gurr. How's it going? Chris Morrissey and Nick Gurr from South Carolina. Guy Johnson. I got some relatives with the last name Johnson in South Carolina. Over in Newberry County is where they're all from. Alaska. What's up, Jelly Man from Alaska? Now, who else we got in here? He's trixing me. Who's trixing me? Anybody trixing me, man? Big Yeti. That's the dude that was peeing on the wall at his mom's house, calling it artwork. I call it, or at least in my house growing up, it had been called get your ass whipped. Doomsday is coming. Yeah, they've been saying that for 20 years, dude. Ever since prepping became trendy. Can you say my name out loud? Mowertex? You in the grass cutting business, dude? Mower techs? Yeah. All right, so back to what I was saying. Women have always done. They did the food prep, they did the canning, and something was brought to my attention. Vapes for the apocalypse. I have no idea. That's a chemical. Good luck with that, man. In the beginning until now, they've been weaker being in the Bible. And in the beginning until now, they've been the weaker in the Bible. I don't know enough about it, man. You want to live in a post-apocalyptic world, meaning prep for what? See, it really comes down to, let me finish what I'm saying before we get to that, Bob. Yeah, was it Bob said that? Yeah, prep for what? All right. Let's get back to it. It was brought to my attention yesterday, and it was my other half. She said, you know, uh, everybody in this little community, that I'm a part of, we talk about bug out bags and emergency bags and all this nonsense, and she brought it to my attention about who actually started this, and is Herb still in here? I know I saw him put up some things. He was asking me if I was going to talk about Donald Trump. Yeah, Herb's still in here. Herb ought to remember this because Herb actually knew my mother. He's watching. He's in the chat. Uh, Back in the 70s when I was a kid, when you needed a Band-Aid, mom had it in her purse. You needed some nail clippers, mom had it in her purse. You needed an aspirin, mom had it in her purse. You needed a wet wipe, mom had it in her purse. You broke a shoelace, mom had it in her purse. So, I think it's pretty funny that, they don't actually get the recognition that they should, the moms, like from the 60s and the 70s, that at Crunch Prepper is someone who trains for and is ready for massive problems, almost like a war zone. Bob, that's taking it to the extreme, man. It's like saying there's going to be a zombie apocalypse. Um, let's talk about just something that happened today and yesterday. How about them floods in Texas? I can pretty much classify that as a shit has hit the fan situation for those people. I mean, it's pretty hellacious. I haven't seen many videos. I'm sure there's tons out there. I watched a few. My day was pretty busy. But I would think that the people that are down there, they would have wanted to, or probably did want to be prepared for any type of emergency that they'd want to live through. So, taking it all the way to the extreme about some apocalypse and the end of the world and all that nonsense, that's going way past. Yeah, moms have been prepping since the beginning of time, Russian Crow, exactly. So yeah, back to what Bob was saying about, would you want to live through, well, yeah, you ask them people in Texas, I bet they want to live through it. I'd be willing to bet every one of them. The people in North Carolina that went through that hurricane, a few months back, I guarantee all of them wanted to live through it. So it's not really, your bags are ready. You're asking me why I wouldn't live through an apocalypse and you got bags ready. Seems kind of redundant, dude. Or maybe a bit hypocritical. Not everything is an end of the world type situation. Israel acting like they fought. Israel and I. Trump said it right the other day, man. If you caught the video with his F-bomb that he dropped, and I'll tell you, if anybody's got the right in politics to drop an F-bomb on live television, it's him, because he gets run through the ringer, and he doesn't even have to. He could have thrown in the towel years ago and just lived some comfortable, rich life on a golf course somewhere and said, fuck it. But no, he's in there fighting a good fight. You got the Iranians and the Israelites, Basically, you got different cultures of people in the Middle East that have been fighting for thousands of years that I'd be willing to bet half of them don't even know why they're still fighting. Shoot, let me see if I can get a light turned on here, people. I got this light thing here that my daughter gave me. That's not the right button. Oh, there it is. Holy shit. Look at that. Hello. You could just be depressed. It doesn't mean you're not ready, but color me however you please. I don't color anybody, man. I just made a statement, a life preserver me for prepping. Yeah, who would have thought? Or a damn kayak. Yeah, Bob, I didn't, if I came off the wrong way, keep in mind I'm a Gen Xer, so we kind of speak our piece. I don't judge nobody. I personally think that taking things to the extreme is a bit unnecessary. I mean, if you want to prep, that light is really fucking bright. My God. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, man. So I apologize if I came off wrong, or if you interpreted it the wrong way. It's not how I meant it. I think there's lots of emergencies that could classify as SHTF, and it doesn't always have to be. Where's the light, bro? You're dark. Where's the light? I just turned the light on, dude. Hello? Let me turn it off again. I got this light that Cher gave me. Let me see here. Wonder if there's like, oh wait, there's button red, green. What is this? Oh hell yeah! Look at this crazy ass nonsense. Now that's sick. Yeah, let's stick with. How do I make it white again? All right, now I got it. Oh hell no, no rainbow, no rainbows. Oh my lord, this thing is crazy. All right, let's see if we can get this white again. Nope. Get white again. Oh, there we go. Just joined Zorro Rogers. Zozo, what's going on? No worries. I mean, back to what I was saying, Bob, is, a couple of years ago, we had a tornado come through where I lived. That was a bit of a shit hit the fan situation. There was trees down everywhere. A lot of roads were blocked. Power was out for a while. I mean, yeah, it wasn't some end of the world apocalypse going on, but, it was pretty crappy. So, if anybody asks, I'm outside. As you can see, you might be able to hear some background noise like birds or something. My internet's been down. I was going to get to that too. Last week, Monday, Tuesday, something like that, we had a bunch of thunderstorms just blow through here. I mean, it was so bad. I was sitting out here, the dog was outside, and I swear it hit the other end of the neighborhood. I didn't even hear thunder. All I heard was the crack of the lightning. That's how close it was. It was crazy. And the internet hadn't worked since. The lights on the modem are on, but you connect to it and there's no internet signal. So, all right, now I can't read the chat without my damn glasses. Yes, it is dark outside. What brand? These are actually homemade. I've been making my own cigarettes for a couple of years now, maybe about 10 years. I buy the bags of tobacco and the empty tubes, and then I got this injector machine, the Powermatic, I think is what it is, the Powermatic 2. I just load up the tobacco and pull the lever, and boom, boom, it spits one out. A lot cheaper. I should probably quit, but it's one of those things. I don't have too many. Somebody already asked me that. Of course, I believe in Jesus, dude. I'm white American, and I'm Gen X. It's how we were raised. Ghosts come outside. Yeah, okay. If you believe in that kind of thing. Personally, I don't really believe in ghosts, but hey, don't smoke, sir. It's bad for your life. Yes, it is indeed bad for you. I would be the first to tell you that. You've been eyeballing those portable solar generators. I've looked at those, and they're pricey. Hey, from Tennessee, how's it going, Maddie? A lot cheaper, but less harmful than more. What's a lot cheaper? I missed something. I missed something. All right. What brand? You didn't say. Cheaper, but less harmful and more nicotine. Yeah, I guess making your own. I mean, it does taste a little bit different, but how has faith changed my life? I've kind of had the same faith most of my life, so it hasn't really changed it. All I've done is, can you trust me? I don't know. I'm a guy on the internet. How much can you trust a guy on the internet? Oh, homemade cigarettes. More. Yeah. It's a little different flavor. It took me a while to buy a couple different kinds of tobacco and a couple different kinds of tubes to kind of find a combination that I liked. And I found it, I try to buy the same thing every time, but, it's just, one of those things. Come to India, sir? No, thanks. I like beef, man. I don't worship cows. I grind them up, make them into patties, slap bacon on top. What type of church do I learn from? I was raised Lutheran. Now I have a cousin who's a pastor in the South, Southern Baptist, and I can sit through his sermons. He tells a great story. He's very, thorough with his stories, and he's the type of guy that you love to eat beef. Yeah, me too, man. This one somebody said earlier I should come to India. Well, I don't think they eat cows in India. I don't think they eat beef. Bible college for Baptists right now. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I don't know if my cousin, I got a cousin. He's a pastor down the south. I don't know if he went to Bible college or not. Baptist. My mother went to a Baptist church for a while. It's similar to Lutheran, I think. I don't know. So, but again, I'm not here to talk about religion. So I don't know. I don't know how we got on that subject. An Indian Muslim boy. Oh, okay, that's an interesting combination. I thought Indians were uh, what's their culture over there? Buddhists. I thought they were is that right? Buddhists? No, I didn't know there was Muslims in India. I thought they were something a little different. Indian Muslim boy. Hindu. That's it. They're Hindu. Yeah, I knew it was something different. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure most Indians are Hindu. And they're pretty peaceful. And I got to tell you, watching the news, they had the little spat with Pakistan, and then they had the little spat with like up in Myanmar, with some people. What is that, Herb? Is that a burger? Hell yeah. I had pizza for dinner. It kind of sucked. I took a French bread and cut it open and made my own pizza, and I kind of overcooked it a little bit. Allah and Islam. All right, well, you have a right to believe whatever you want, but I'm gonna give you the respect to believe whatever you want in your beliefs, and I expect the same in return. Just because we don't believe in the same thing doesn't make either of us right or either of us wrong. What's my favorite song, genre, and band? Oh, my favorite band is probably going to be uh, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Um, my favorite song may not be a Tom Petty song. Uh, I'm a big fan of When the Levee Breaks by Led Zeppelin. My favorite genre, you could probably figure that out. I'm real classic rock, Southern rock. I do get into some of the outlaw country. Do I like the Beach Boys? Of course. Who doesn't like the Beach Boys, man? A little before my time, but growing up, my dad, Thin Lizzy, yeah, they're not bad. I mean, not one of my top 5 or top 10 favorites, but they had some good jams. Oh, Led Zeppelin? I would hope so. I think everybody in the world knows Led Zeppelin, man. They're like the biggest worldwide, greatest rock band of all time. If you will come to the USA. Well, that's the good thing about the USA, man. You're welcome here. Just make sure you do it the legal way so you don't get snatched up and sent home. We have a process, respect it. Bigger music collection. This man has a bigger than anybody. Yeah, my dad had a big music collection. He was a record collector. And that's kind of where I got the rock and roll thing, I guess. And of course, it was my generation, 70s, 80s. What do I like to do sometimes? Well, this is an outdoors and preparedness channel. So I do spend a lot of time outdoors and preparing. So, Denmark? Never been there. What's it like in Denmark? I've never been there. My favorite country besides the U.S.? I don't know if I have one. Yeah, the U.S. is pretty great. You can do a lot of cool things here. So I don't know if I have a favorite. Do I have a go pack or a bug out bag? Yes, I do. If you look through my channel library, I did a couple of videos. I have a 3-day pack that I put together for backpacking recently. And then I have, what's it, me, Both Beach Boys, all their records except the unreleased. And he ain't getting a bootleg of that. Oh, a lot of Beach Boys. Yeah, my dad might have had that. Yeah, it's possible. He had a lot of stuff. He had close to 35,000 albums and like 60,000 45s. And that's not exaggerating. That's about what the numbers were. England? I don't know. I mean, a lot of cool bands came out of England, but I don't know if I would consider that, one of my favorites. What's the worst thing I've done in my life? Start a YouTube channel. Probably. Subscribers meet up in England. Can I sing? Oh, hell no, I ain't singing. Frog, can you sing? Yeah. So, oh, Lord. How many people have been watching the news? No, not singing. Sorry. We're here to talk about stuff, current events. I'll interact with y'all in the chat. I was watching some YouTube videos earlier today about the floods down in Texas. And the last I heard was there was 70 people that perished in that. That's horrible. That's horrible. If anybody has any further updates, on that. And I know there was a bunch of campers, a bunch of girls that were missing. A whole like summer camp kind of thing just got washed away. Flood the trash state. Why is Texas a trash state? Texas is cool, man. That's where the Dallas Cowboys are from. Do I think the doomsday clock is accurate? That clock's been running for 20 years. Yeah, water is scary. What kind of watch? This is a Casio, I think. Something or other. It's got an altimeter and a barometer and ambient temperature and a cajillion alarms, and it has hands. I don't know if you can see it. It's got like old school hands, like an old school, clock. And then it also has a digital screen like inside of it. It's pretty cool. The other half gave it to me for Christmas, I believe, a couple years ago. The book 1 Second After, I have indeed. I've also read the other 3 or 4 in the series, one year after, 5 years after. I read all, I think there's 4 of them. And yeah, I read those. Great series. Great concept. I mean, if you're thinking about what a situation where the power goes out for an extended period of time would be like, that's an ideal. Almost 300 perished, last you heard, in the Texas floods. Wow, that's horrible, man. That is absolutely horrible. Yeah, 1 Second After. That was a good series. I did read that not that long ago. I got kidnapped and a boy got bit and run, and it's getting worse. Yeah, well, I think in the UK they don't allow guns. That's why shit like that happens. You've only read the first book? Yeah, I finished that one, and literally as soon as I finished it, I ordered the next 3. On current events, it's gone backwards before. It's more an art piece than anything. Yeah, I don't buy into that. The doomsday clock. I think there's always a chance that there could be some sort of emergency or some sort of situation where people would have to, come together. I was watching a YouTube live earlier this morning with what's the channel? Twin something. I forget. I just subscribed. I stumbled across it, and the guy was pretty funny. Just talking about random stuff. And he was saying that it's everything's always on the precipice, or it's been that way for years. And I mean, it could be something as simple as a job loss, that could hit you, or a storm, or a flood, or even the zombie apocalypse, for all that matter. I have no idea. Yeah, not that bad. Yeah, see, I don't know if it's that good, though. If every other place you got to go, this old guy's cool, hit the like button. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. He called me a cool old guy. Yeah, I guess that's the category I fall into. At least old guy. I don't know about cool, but appreciate it, Bob. Thanks for stopping in. Check back. Go ahead and subscribe. I try to put up videos a couple times a week, but like I said, my internet's been out, so I'll get back to it this week. We got the internet people coming out Tuesday to get it straightened out. 16 to 20. I mean, young, can't buy. Don't make a lot of money. Supposed to prepare. For someone who's 16 to 20, I think the most important thing, and really it's more than just the age group of 16 to 20. Video on prepping and pets. Oh yeah, I got one in the back. She's behind me. Training trumps gear every time. You can have all the tactical gear in the world that you can afford to buy if you had a big bank account with a bottomless budget and all that, with all that and if you don't know how to do something as simple as start a fire, you're pretty screwed. So, I'll be the first one to say that training will trump gear every time, all day. So having the skills, um, for simple things like growing food and preserving food and filtering water and building a fire and building a shelter, those skills are going to be far more valuable than any amount of preps or gear or anything like that. Do I have grandkids? No, I do not. I do not have grandkids. Yep. Grab a few friends, go fishing and camping. In fact, I just talked to a friend of mine earlier this evening. He wants to do a trip later this month. He has a few days off of work, and he asked if I would tag along. So, but and with the prep thing, the skills are important. That's vital to have. Um, Secondly is the community. Without community, um, you know, the lone wolf thing just doesn't work. You know, People can say all the time, "Oh, I'm just gonna grab my bug out bag and head off in the woods and I'll be fine." No, really, you'll be dead. It takes a community. If you look back, and I don't know, what the age group of this chat room is, or this thing is right now. Um, well, thanks, Crunch. I appreciate it. Nice person to talk to. I appreciate that. Um, if you look back, good evening, Gen X. Tin Man Metal, how's it going? If you look back to September 12th, 2001, I believe it was, that was like one of the most American days there was, because sadly there was a tragedy the day before and everybody came together. It didn't matter your color, your race, your creed, your culture, it didn't matter. We all came together. And, sadly, it takes a disaster or an emergency like that. Did the scientists consider the time of energy travel? What? Energy travel doesn't instantly, by the way. It doesn't travel instantly. No, it doesn't. It does travel at different speeds, though. Um, so, did the scientist just left. She was out here for a minute, just to say hey. She didn't say hey. She doesn't want to be in the video or even be known. If I sit beside you, you keep my mind running and active. I don't know if you'd keep up, man. I've had people, in fact, my friend Herb is in the chat. Him and I have been friends for like 40 years. And I've had people tell us that they can't keep up with us. That once we start, yes, America was American that day, Tim, man. That is 100%. And the point I'm trying to make is, when there is an emergency, and it doesn't matter whether it's, a job loss or a weather event or war or the apocalypse or aliens have landed, what's going to be the most beneficial to us is that we all come together. And that's what happened on September 12th. Gravity force of a person times population is possible like an It's getting way too sciencey for me, dude. Way too sciencey for me. So, when it comes to, the question was, what does someone 16 to 20 do, when they don't have a lot of money? Again, the skills, having the training and the skills. That was 6 years before you were born. Yeah, I was in my early 20s. Actually, no, 9/11, I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I was probably about 30, 31 when that happened, 32 maybe. Yeah, 2001. Yeah, I was 30, 32, 33 actually. No, it was before. It was a little bit after my birthday, so I was 33. Yeah, it was a week after. Twin Arrows. Eddie has one agree. Twin Arrows. Yeah. That's whose podcast I was watching. 9/12 to happen. Yep, and that's what made me think of that, is because he said that earlier in his live today. I was watching Twin Arrows Survival. That's his channel. I was watching his live earlier this morning when I was drinking my coffee, and he was saying that that was like when everyone came together. It was 9/12. It's like we were like 100% American then. It didn't matter who you were. Everybody came together, and that really happens a lot because, or at least a lot in emergencies. When there's some sort of tragedy, people do come together. I mean, look at North Carolina, look at Florida. You got neighbor helping neighbor, and all the people that came out to help, and provide some support and some assistance. What about Bigfoot? Bigfoot's never been proven, dude. So I don't know about that. So again, when it comes to what was the guy's name? Christopher something. He asked me earlier if he's still here. Christopher Leatherwood. Yeah, he's going to Bible college. To answer your question, that what does a 16 to 20-year-old do? A 16 to 20-year-old do, just because you can't buy a firearm doesn't mean you can't have a purpose or a use. You can rough your brother up, but he can me, but don't tell anyone else that they're to do it. Yeah. Yeah. So, being able to, put up a shelter, grandpa, I'm nobody's grandpa, putting up a shelter, making fire, simple things. What is this breakdown of the magnitudes? I don't really care about that, dude. I know there was some sort of earthquake in Japan, I think, or maybe they were expecting one. It didn't happen. I don't know. I didn't watch any of the videos. So yeah, Mr. Leatherwood, having those skills, being able to grow, and it's at its basic level. Yeah, you put a seed in some dirt, you give it some water, some sunlight, and it grows. But as you learn to do it, you'll figure out quickly that there's a little more to it than that. It does take a little bit of skill. So, that's my answer to what are aliens real and why do they think they're, what are all these questions, man? So yeah, Mr. Leatherwood, there's a lot more that you can offer, if you can't, because a firearm is like the small part of it. There's so much more to preparedness than just a firearm. And I tell people all the time, the essentials, there's 5 of them in my opinion. I mean, there's lots more, but the 5 basic essentials are what's important. There's food, water, shelter, medical, and security. Just because you can't, did the aliens do 9/11, 9/11? No, they didn't. Some Middle Eastern fools decided they wanted to take a shot at the U.S. and crash some planes into a building. We all saw it on the damn TV, man. So being able to produce food, being able to grow food, being able to preserve food, being able to filter water, being able to, collect water. In fact, I have a video that I've just been sitting on hold because I can't upload it because my internet's out. I'm not a boomer. Thank you very much. Gen X Outdoors and Preparedness is not baby boomer outdoors and preparedness. I'm not being rude. Being able to collect water. In fact, I have a video that's coming out. It's the first thing that can be used for farming. I believe it's less activated soil. Well, yeah, I mean, and believe it or not, my other half is a scientist at the PhD level, and there are certain types of plants, trees that can be planted in soil that's been contaminated, and over a period of, I don't know, 8 to 10 years, I don't remember what she said, but that plant will filter out all those impurities and make that soil usable again. But being able to, collect water. I have a video coming out where I built a DIY water filter. That's my next one coming out. As soon as I get internet, I'll load it up. But being able to filter water and purify water to make it safe to drink so everybody doesn't get sick. I'm going to get to the aliens thing in a minute, dude. How can I be prepared to defend against aliens when camping? If you really think that aliens are going to come and interact with you while you're camping, then you should probably take your phone and record it, because that'll probably be a pretty viral video. Medical. That's one of the things that I'm a little lacking on. Just having basic medical knowledge. Now, I can put a Band-Aid on. I can make a splint if somebody hurts their arm or their shoulder or something. But as far as stitches go, I got a buddy who's a nurse. That's his career. Boil water to use life straws. I have life straws. I also have Sawyers. I have 3 or 4 different types, including life straws and Sawyers, of water filters, including a DIY. Remember, filtering water and purifying water and disinfecting water are 3 different things. You can purify it, which basically takes out the particles, the floaties. It decreases the turbidity. It makes it clear so you can see through it. So it looks like good, clean water, but it may still have a smell to it. So you need to purify it, and that's so it's a process. But again, back to your original question, you need to build an IFAC. Yeah, I'm lacking in the medical. I don't even have a tourniquet. All this gear and stuff that I got, and I don't even have a tourniquet. A spider cat from Chernobyl. I have no idea. There's a spider cat. Who knows what's in Chernobyl? Yeah. So again, to your question, I got the impression you thought, well, what could I do? I can't buy a gun. I can't. It's more than that, man. There's lots of other things that could, that you could up your game on to get you, to a point where, not having that firearm isn't really going to be a big deal because there's no shortage of people out there that do have them. So the guy that does have all the guns and the bullets and all that, let him handle the security part. He may not be very skilled when it comes to medical. He may not be able to reset a bone or put stitches in, to seal up a wound or something. Learn to fly a UFO. Yeah, that would be interesting. All right, just to very quickly answer the alien question. Go outside. I want everybody to take a little break and go outside. Chest seals, combat tourniquets if someone gets serious hurt. Yeah, I got chest seals. I got some other specialty type badges. I don't have a tourniquet. I just haven't picked one up yet. I saw some in a store not long ago, and I should have picked one up. I don't know why I didn't. So yeah, so you got the idea. Just because you can't purchase a firearm or you don't have the money to buy a firearm doesn't mean that you can't up your game on other aspects. So let's talk about this alien thing real quick. All right, everybody take 2 minutes, walk outside, look up at the sky. Tell me how big it is. How big is the sky? Do you really think that as big as that sky is, that we are the only life out there? Come on, man, common sense here. There was a bug. Did you see that? Oh, it's because of that light. So do I believe in them? I don't know. Do I believe they don't exist? No, I'm not really that naive. As big as the universe is, there's got to be something out there. All right, Frog's got to go. He's not going to throw science at us no more. Hey, one of these days I might get the scientist out here to help me out with these things. She did say she would that she would sit down and monitor my questions and my comments. And I can't really do that right now because I can't hook the laptop to the internet. All I have is the phone, and I can't hotspot the phone to the computer and still do a live. So we couldn't do that this time. But she did say that she'd be down for sitting and monitoring the questions and the comments. So, maybe next week I'll do a live if she's up for it. And you can get as sciencey as you want, man. And I'll warn you now, she's no joke. She knows her science. Your dad's a sheepdog, so him being on the church security team probably covers me with guns. Well, of course. There's a guy out in Idaho. He has a YouTube channel. He's a former California SWAT member. His channel is called Christian Warrior. You should check his channel out, man. He specializes in church security teams, and he's big into prepping and stuff like that. He's a pretty cool dude. I think his name's Keith. He's got a YouTube channel called Christian Warrior. He's got a website. He does all kind of, he's got downloadable stuff, and it's all free. I don't think he charges for anything. Real good dude. Never met him, but he seems like a real good dude. And I know I get a lot of information The universe is limitless. Aliens are a statistical guarantee. Yes, thank you, Uber. They're a statistical guarantee. You know, and somebody else called me a boomer. Random Move 9. I don't even know if you know. Yeah, check out Christian Warrior. Yeah. Um, he's also on the Survival Dispatch Network. That's where I got turned on to him. He used to do the lives on Survival Dispatch, but now I think he focuses more on his Christian Warrior channel. You know, and he does like sit rep updates. Anytime something happens at a church, um, you know, he reaches out and he gets the situation, and breaks it down to where how the security team, what they did wrong, what they did right, yada yada yada. So yeah, Christian Warrior, he's a good dude. I've never met him. I don't even know the guy. I just watch his channel, but I dig his channel. It's pretty cool. I only got 2 people watching now. Everybody else bounced. Of course, I have been on here for 50 minutes rambling on about nothing. So, but I do enjoy chit chatting with everybody. Um, Even the ones that called me a boomer. Uh, I think baby boomers ended born up to 1964, and then 1965 to 1980 is Gen Xers. So I was born in the early 70s, so I'm right in the middle of the Gen X generation. So I'm not a boomer. Uh, Usually it's a Gen Zer that calls me a boomer because they don't really know. I know my kids are Gen Zers, and they call me boomer sometimes, and I have to correct them. Coming in their streams. Oh yeah, it's good fun. What generation is aliens? I don't know, man. It depends. It depends on their lifespan, really. I guess. If an alien was born in between 1965 and 1980, that would make them a Gen X alien, I guess. If they were born 1950 to 1964, that would make them boomer aliens, I guess. If they're thousands of years old, I don't even know if we have a term for that. I don't think we've gone back that far. So I don't know. I've never met no aliens. So I mean, I think it'd be kind of cool to meet them. I would feel, what's the word? I would feel a little hesitant, um, to give aliens advice as to make themselves known to Earth. I don't think it would be good for them. I don't think our planet is mature enough to handle that. I think that it would be detrimental for the aliens to make contact with us right now. We can't even get along on this planet. What's anybody believe? Why would anybody believe we can get along with people with other planets? So what if everyone else is an alien and you're the only one who doesn't know? That would be kind of weird. Like the Truman Show, but aliens. I don't think I ever watched the Truman Show. I think in Gen Z they started saying there's no stupid questions, but there definitely is. That was Gen X, man. That was Gen X that said there's no stupid questions, only stupid answers. And I don't think it was Gen Xers that said that. I think it was the boomers that said that to us. Because I remember, when I was real young in the 70s, like before I turned 10, I remember, being told there's no stupid question, only stupid answers or something like that. I forget what it was. So I don't know if it was Gen Z that coined that. I know that the Gen Zs, they like to think they coin everything, even something that's already been around. They'll give it a different name and think they made it up, and really no, they didn't. It's been around. So you still with us, Big Herb? I took my yesterday. I got a chance to go to the gun range. It was lovely. If you watched any of my videos, I recently did a blueprint build on an AR. Really aren't that original ideas anyway. Yeah, I agree, Sam. Just look at music. I mean, look how much music is sampled from other music. I've said for years that the music that hit the world, from about the time of the Beatles all the way up through like the 80s will never be reproduced again. They're some of the greatest guitar riffs and the greatest songs ever written. And I just don't see anything topping that ever, at least in my lifetime. So, who was it that was getting all sciencey on me in here? I think he left. Yeah, forgot who. Oh, Frog. Yeah, Frog. He probably left by now. My border gate open? No. Haven't you watched the news? Yes, Brian Wilson was a once-in-a-century composer. Kind of like Jimmy Page, man. Just one of those guys. Even Tom Petty, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, they were all that way. They just, they were groundbreaking when it came up with, what they were doing. Yeah, they're talking about the gun range. That's cool. Part of a skeet shooting team. Well, that's cool. We didn't have anything like that when I was in high school. Yeah, I put a build together recently. I got a video up. Kanye West was a once-in-a-lifetime composer. I don't know about that, man. Isn't he the one that did a duet with Paul McCartney? And people started saying that, Kanye was going to make that old white man famous. So there's your answer with that. So I did get some rage time in yesterday. It was pretty good. Went to this new range that I'd never been to before up the road. A little under an hour to get there. Super clean, well lit, well organized, super nice people. Got a little bit of trigger time with my Blueprint AR. I'm real happy with it. So, Herb, you and I will have to chit chat about that, away from the live session. But it was pretty good time. I'm happy with it. So, yeah. Kanye West was a once-in-a-lifetime composer. I'm still, I can't, I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about what Kanye's put out. I know, there's music out there that's timeless. You see it in TV commercials and internet commercials, and there isn't a day goes by on the radio that you don't hear a Beatles song or a Led Zeppelin song. They made these records 50 years ago, man, and they're still getting airplay. So to say that Kanye West, was a groundbreaking composer, I guess we won't really know until about 2065, 2070, to see if any music that he put out is still being played 50 years from now. So, and that's kind of how I music is. There's stuff out there that's just timeless, and sadly, a lot of the newer music and the newer artists, they just, I don't know if they don't have the creativity or I don't want to use the word talent, but back in the day, they didn't sample other people's music. They came up with it on their own. And now nobody's really not coming up with too much of their own. It's all digital. I mean, you don't even have to be able to sing anymore. You run it through a computer program and it puts it in tune for you. So, now there has been artists over the years that ran their vocals through processors. I mean, look at Marilyn Manson. The guy obviously did not talk the same way he sang. He ran that through a processor, to get that sound. But as far as sampling, I don't know. So, one good rap song is Today Was a Good Day by Ice Cube. I'm not familiar with that one. I know Ice Cube made music back in the day. My buddy Herb in the chat here, he was a big fan of Ice Cube. Pretty sure he had the cassette tape back in the day. 30 years. Yes, we will. We will see who the greats are in 30 years. And music's always been divided into different niches. I mean, Hank Williams made records 50 years ago. And, his stuff is still out. So, there's going to be different genres, um, not just the rock and roll genre. So, but regardless of the genre that they're in, if they're still getting airplay, even if there is airplay 50 years from now, or they're still getting downloaded, um, you know, that'll be what, decides who is great and who is not. Because, there's a boatload, no shortage of artists that were making records 50 years ago that people have long forgotten about because they weren't Led Zeppelin. They weren't the Beatles. There's a few that are timeless. For me, the means by which the song was conceived doesn't matter as long as the end result is good. Reasons. I don't know if I can agree with that. I mean, I'm not saying a song that's been sampled or has sampling in it or has used autotune is a bad song. I think we were more referring to the ones who took country music from being hillbilly music to blue collar. That's correct. He was groundbreaking. He changed the genre. So got some fireworks going on in the background, folks. Sound of Independence. So I'm not saying that somebody who uses sampling creatively, that maybe their music isn't going to be around or is going to be around. It's hard to say, but right now we're in that time period where it's really hard to compare somebody who's currently making music to someone who made music 50 years ago. Shotgun Willie, yeah, that was a good album. A lot of good stuff back then. I mean, we could sit here and rattle it off all day long. But it doesn't answer the question of what's out now or the artists that are putting music out now, even if they're sampling other people's music, is that still going to be around 50 years from now? Or is it going to be long forgotten and filed in a category of one-hit wonders or forgotten artists? And believe me, there's no shortage of them. I got my father's library, on computer, and I can scroll through the artists, and some of them I never even heard of. And that's because they made a couple of records in the 50s. They were big radio hits for a few months, and then they were gone. So I'm going to have to take a break and get some water, folks. All this talking makes my throat dry. So, that's nice of you. Mac DeMarco, probably remembered pretty fondly. Right now, doesn't ring a bell. Mac DeMarco. Music taste and technology changes. New tunes are government adults. Things being good. That could be true, Mr. Leatherwood, in some instances, but you got to look at bands like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, the Eagles, Pink Floyd. They made records 40 and 50 years ago that not only did the boomer generation put a high value on, but so did the Gen Xers, so did the millennials. AC/DC's another one. Millennials, even Gen Zers. I mean, I got a kid that lives next door who's probably right around 19, 20 years old, and he gets outside in the driveway and shoots some hoops with his basketball. And I hear the music that he plays, and he's playing stuff that I listened to when I was a kid, and he's 35 years younger than me. So I don't know if I would classify, saying that it's associated with nostalgia. I think some music, like if you grew up in the 80s and you were into the hair bands, yeah, that could be a bit nostalgia. There's only a couple of, 80s hair bands that really were big hitters. But there was no shortage of 80s hair bands, and I can sit and listen to 80s hair bands all day long because that's what I grew up on. That now is a nostalgia thing. But to say that AC/DC is a nostalgia thing, no, I don't think so, because I don't know anyone between the age of 10 and 60 that doesn't know the song "You Shook Me All Night Long" or "Back in Black." Um, those are just big hits that are very popular, and lots of age groups hear them and still listen to them. So yeah, that one I can't agree with. Back to this. Who was this? Mac DeMarco. Who is that, Sam? Was he in a band? The background noise, the crickets in that? Yeah, I'm outside. You gonna look it up for me?
Sure.
Mac DeMarco, the scientist, just popped out. She brought me a glass of water. Now she's gonna go look up Mac DeMarco. She's a big music fan too. So now she'll sit here and argue with you that Led Zeppelin's the greatest band ever. And it's hard to dispute that. Mac DeMarco. Hi from Canada. Sudden silence. How's it going, Canada? How are you tonight? Beach Boys all day long. See, I can't argue with that. I thought they had some great stuff. I mean, my dad was a big Beach Boys fan. It is spelled MacDemarco. Mac DeMarco. My dad was also a big Beatles fan and a big Rolling Stones fan. Deathcore all the way. I don't know. I mean, everybody different strokes for different folks. I know there's a ton of what we called thrash metal when I was a kid, or death metal. There was a few bands that I got into, but it was short lived. I did go see a few. In fact, I went to a concert that was the Suicidal Tendencies, Exodus, and Pantera. And it was when Pantera was on their Cowboys from Hell tour, before Vulgar Display of Power came out. That's how long ago that was. It was the first tour that Exodus did after Kirk Hammett left Exodus. For those of you that didn't know, Kirk Hammett was Exodus's guitar player before he was Metallica's guitar player. So, those are some of the bands, and Suicidal was huge. They had gotten some airplay. We had a metal, like a radio station that did metal, here in the Baltimore region, that would play this stuff. But a lot of it was, you had to go to the record store and leaf through and see what was coming out and listen to it and check it out. But yeah, Suicidal Tendencies and Pantera. It was a good time. It was probably about 1986 or 87. I don't even think I had a driver's license yet. No, it's a cigarette. And now I'm lighting it. And now I'm smoking it. Somebody asked if I was rolling a joint. Now it's a cigarette. No worries. I make these myself. So, like the band Skillet. Never heard of Skillet. Never heard of them. I tend to be pretty closed. Not so much closed, but I've gotten into this routine where I kind of listen to the same stuff all the time. A couple of years ago, I got a cousin down in South Carolina that turned me on to Cody Jinks, man, and I listen to the shit out of some Cody Jinks now. Seen him in concert already. Went down to South Carolina last year. What's my take on Bigfoot? Bigfoot's one of those things that people like to tell stories about, but there's never proof that it actually exists. A Yeti or a Bigfoot or whatever you want to call it, depending on where you are in the world. So I don't know. I don't really have a take on Bigfoot. I've personally never seen one. Songs Lucy, Comatose, Lions, great songs by them. By, who was it? Skillet. Never heard of. I have to check them out. Skillet.
You should check out DeMarco. He sounds pretty cool. He's only 30.
Mac DeMarco is
cool. Vintage Japanese synthesizers, and he records on reel-to-reel tape recorders.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I dig me some reel-to-reel recorders. Birds by Cody Jinks. Yep, that's a good one. He's got a bunch of good ones. Must Be the Whiskey, Mama Song, Hippies and Cowboys. Yeah, I got tickets to see him again this year. He's coming to the Baltimore area next month in August, and I scored some tickets to go check him out. Should be a good time. We had tickets to Billy Joel and Sting, which we've seen both Billy Joel and Sting. Never seen them together. We did go see Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks last year. It was a phenomenal show. But we had tickets for Billy Joel and Sting this year, but they canceled that show. Billy Joel's having some health issues, and instead of just postponing, they just canceled it. So let's hope Billy Joel gets back in the saddle and keeps touring, because he puts on a great show. Your brother started listening to him in 10th grade. Cody Jinks, yeah. I got a cousin turned me on to him about maybe 8 or 10 years ago. I think he was still doing the sessions, the Adobe sessions. It was right after that came out. So he's put out a lot of new stuff since then. So he's good. He's good to see live. If you get a chance to go check him out live, I recommend it. He puts on a pretty good show. I treated myself to second row tickets last year and went down and saw him. So it was a good time. When we got tickets, I didn't get second row this time. I wanted to go out in May. He was in Phoenix, Arizona, opening for maybe Keith Urban or somebody, one of the big name country stars. Dying off. I could think it was Toby Keith. Yeah, Toby Keith. That was sad. I liked his music. He was good. But yeah, Cody Jinks was in Phoenix, Arizona. Boss Man Jack. Shout out for Boss Man Jack. Sure, man. I don't know who Boss Man Jack is, but I know who Wolfman Jack is. Never met the dude. I'm not Grandpa. Thank you very much. I'm not a grandfather. I'm just an old guy. It was, oh yeah, Toby Keith. Yeah, I liked his stuff, man. He came out when I was in my early 20s, and I got turned on. Lost a double chuck and could really use a juicer. I don't even know what that is. Man, there's a lot of bugs out here, man. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to sit out here with all these damn bugs. This light being on. Got a ton of bugs. So, but yeah, music is one of those things that, to me, it's like brought to you courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue. Yep, that's one of his big hits, man. That was a good one. There was a special with Sammy Hagar where he went down. Happy birthday? No, I can't sing happy birthday. Sammy Hagar went down and hung out with Toby Keith. He owns a bar. I forget the name of it, but he actually owns a bar, down wherever he's from. And they went down and, hung out at his bar and played some music. Sammy Hagar. I don't know what. Search it on the internet, on YouTube or something. You could probably find it. It was pretty cool. He looked like a pretty down to earth dude. Toby Keith did, which is cool to see. Because they're people too. Just because they're famous, they're people too. So it's cool to see them, just doing their thing. But music is one of those things that's like the universal language. I think no matter where you're from in the world, you can always find that common ground that brings people together, when it comes to music. I mean, look at some of the shows. Sammy Hagar's pretty good. Yeah, he is. I didn't think he was bad with Van Halen. Some of his solo stuff, I thought was decent. I wasn't a big fan of Sammy Hagar, but when he started doing those, where he'd go hang out with other artists, like he hung out with Billy Gibbons with ZZ Top. In fact, I think he went to Kid Rock's barn. Kid Rock's got like a barn, set up with like a studio inside, and Sammy Hagar was there with Kid Rock and Billy Gibbons, and that was pretty cool. To see them all hanging out and just jamming and having a good time and laughing, and that's kind of cool to see them. Other than what they see. Longview, Texas, named Rack and Roll Billiards. People come to play league, and it's decorated ceiling to floor with 70s to 90s rock bands. Oh, that'd be cool to check out. Longview, Texas. What's the name of it? Rack and Roll Billiards. Yeah, that'd be cool to check out if I'm ever down that way. Ray Charles, of course I like Ray Charles, man. Ray Charles was the man. Uh, he had a lot of good songs. Another one of those artists that, timeless. Uh, Ray Charles. Did you see the movie Ray with who's the guy that played him? Man, it was a good movie. I think the movie was called Ray, and it was basically about Ray Charles's life. And that man didn't have an easy life. My favorite band, AC/DC? No, my favorite band is not AC/DC. I do like AC/DC. I grew up listening to AC/DC, but I mean they're not my favorite band. When it comes to like '80s hard rock bands, I'm going to lean more towards Guns N' Roses than I am AC/DC. I think Guns N' Roses is phenomenal, but that's merely because I'm a big fan of Slash. And I think he's one of the best guitar players to ever, put a six string on and make it happen. Uh, but Ray Charles is good. I like his stuff. GNR rules. Yes, they do. GNR rules, brother. My favorite song by AC/DC. I liked Whole Lot of Rosie. I liked For Those About the Rock. Like the Who Made Who album. I thought was good. Have I ever visited an Arab country? No, I have not. I am an American redneck white boy. I got no business going to an Arab country. Not that it wouldn't be cool. I love visiting and seeing architecture and places like that, but I have never had the pleasure of visiting an Arab country. So I just went to Arab countries called serving. Yeah, well, that's what it's called. Ever been to a concert before? Yeah, I've been to quite a few. Um, not a young guy. I've been to quite a few concerts. I'm not even sure I could rattle off the entire list of concerts. You ever been to a concert, Todd fan? And which ones you been to? I may have seen them too, or seen a band. Have you ever been to a concert? There we go. AC/DC tour at the end of the year. Oh, that'll be cool, man. I didn't know they were still touring. Um, Actually, I did see on the internet that Axl Rose sat in with them to do Travis Tritt. Oh, I'd love to see him in concert, man. He's on my bucket list. I saw Kiss. I saw Kiss in like 2000, 2000 or 2001. I saw Kiss. No makeup on, but they still put on a pretty good show. Um, Lana Del Rey. Never seen Lana Del Rey. Oh, she's good. Jamie Foxx. That's right, Herb. That's who played Ray Charles in the movie Ray. You're 100% right. Am I liberal? No, I'm not liberal. Uh, Not even close. Sebastian, are you liberal? Planning a trip to Morocco? Yeah, I'm sure you are. Beach Boys, always left at the beach. Let's see, Mike Love and Bruce Johnson. Yeah, I saw the Beach Boys. I think I was about 14. My dad took me to see the Beach Boys and Three Dog Night. If you ever heard of that band, they were from the '60s. My dad took me to concerts when I was pretty young. A lot of the bands that he grew up listening to started a lot of liberal Marines. I don't know. I know a bunch of Marines, man. I don't know if any of them are liberals. Um, yeah, my dad started getting tickets. We had this venue open up in the Baltimore area, and tickets were pretty cheap. Um, a former Marine says that is true. Is the Beatles my favorite band? No. If I had to pick my favorite, I'm probably still going to lean back towards Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. One of my all-time favorites. I've seen them a couple of times. Just phenomenal. But not that I like the Beatles any less. I grew up listening to them, so it's really hard for me to say, who my favorite is. I don't dislike them for any reason. Three Dog Night. Yep, I saw them. Maybe that's why they were touring together, because yeah. My favorite song by the Beatles. Uh, let's see. I like "Fool on a Hill." I like "Helter Skelter." Um, Probably the middle stuff, like the Sergeant Pepper's, Abbey Road type stuff. I mean, I like the earlier stuff, like the bubblegum stuff, from the early '60s. Um, but my preference would be stuff from the later years as far as Beatles go. The White Album, I think, was one of their best albums. Abbey Road, I really like that one. So, but I wouldn't say a favorite band. um, I had my preferences. Arthur Morgan, Red Dead Redemption. Oh, okay. The White Album is their best album. Yeah, that's why my dad would disagree. He would have said that Abbey Road was their best album, and I never said I didn't like the Beatles. I just said they weren't my favorite. Happiness is a Warm Gun. That's another good jam. Um, did you see the movie Across the Universe? It was, yeah, about the Beatles. The movie's called Across the Universe. It's a good watch. Got a lot of Beatles music in it. Be able to play. It was not Jimi Hendrix, dude. It was what was his name? Johnson. Um, what was his name? I've heard Jimi Hendrix sold his soul to be able to play the guitar. No, that was not Jimi Hendrix. You have that incorrect, Mr. Leatherwood. That was oh man, Johnson. Somebody help me out here. Like from the 40s. What was his first name? Are you looking it up?
Yeah, what am I looking
Guitarist that sold his soul to the devil. Something Johnson.
It's computing.
Yeah. Crossroads Blues. Why is the Beatles not your favorite? Why is they not my favorite? I don't know. Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson. Who was that said that? Mr. Leatherwood. Yes, it was not Jimi Hendrix that sold his soul to the devil, or supposedly to be able to play the guitar. It was Robert Johnson. It's like a thing in the music industry that basically Robert Johnson wasn't that good of a guitar player, and then he kind of like disappeared, fell off the radar. Nobody knew where he was, and then when he came back on the scene, he was mind-blowing phenomenal. So they started the rumors, I guess, that he sold his soul to the devil to be a high-level guitar player. It was Robert Johnson, and he's a pretty respected. There ain't a lot of music that's been recorded, so it might be hard to find anything that he did. But he was just phenomenal. And you look at, or you go and watch, interviews with some of the top tier guitar players, and a lot of them will tell you that Robert Johnson is someone that influenced them because of the kind of stuff that he was pulling off with a fretboard. Yeah. Triple X Tectasian? Never heard of him. Yep. Robert Johnson. Yeah. She just looked it up for me. I knew it was something. I knew it wasn't Jimi Hendrix. Yeah. Influenced Delta blues to rock and roll. Yep. Yes, he did. He did influence. He played. Your favorite band is the Beatles. Yeah, I think my dad's favorite band was the Beatles. He liked a lot of bands: Rolling Stones, Beach Boys, ELO, Big fan of Chicago, which I ended up seeing them in person, live. They were pretty good. Um, oh, and odd, most people tend to be either 100% spiritual. I believe both exist. Yes, 100% scientific or 100% spiritual. Uh, hardly ever any middle ground. It's either one or the other. Um, you know. So look at that. Talked about rock and roll. Talked about guitar players. Yeah. So Tuesday I should be getting my internet fixed. I got the cable company coming out to hopefully just put in a new router and get me going again so I can get some videos uploaded. Right now all I can do is lives. So, you know, eat some Vietnamese food. Yeah, I had pizza. Wasn't very good. Daryl Berry Sports. How's it going, man? Thanks for joining. You caught the end of it. Probably going to be wrapping it up here soon. I've been rambling on for an hour and a half, and I got to go to work tomorrow, and it's after 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Mac DeMarco. Yeah, appreciate it, Sam. We're going to check it out. We always like hearing new music. She generally hears stuff before I do. I guess she keeps her ear to the ground a little more often than I do. I tend to, in 14, no. Got to wait till you're old enough to buy your own, brother. Yeah. It's one of those things, and I wouldn't even recommend buying them, man. Cigarettes are a bad, nasty habit. They're dirty. They're bad for your health. They cost a lot of money. Yeah, then why am I smoking? I wish I had that answer because I'm a dumbass. And I started smoking when I was young and should have listened to the older people telling me I shouldn't do it. But here we are, at 50 some odd years old, still sparking them up. Yeah, I don't know why. So, yeah, that's the $1,000,000 question. Why do I still do it? I wish I had that answer. So yeah, when I started, I was probably about 14, 13 maybe. My father smoked. Hell, my mother smoked. My grandparents smoked. Everybody in my family smoked. So just one of those things. I started stealing cigarettes from my dad and my grandfather. And he'd steal one or two here, and then he didn't get carded when I was younger. I could go in and buy cigarettes at 14 years old. So it wasn't like today where they're hard to get your hands on. Back in my day, you could just walk into any gas station or convenience store at 14 years old and for about $1.15 buy a pack of cigarettes. So, but if I could go back in time to my younger self, I'd smack myself across the face and say, don't do that. But, so that is somebody asked me earlier, what's the worst thing I ever done? I said, start a YouTube channel. Now I'm going to say start smoking because it's one of those things that I just haven't, try one day without smoking. You can, yeah. I've done it. Usually I'm sick as a dog and can't get out of bed. And I think a lot of it is just habit. I notice it like when I'm driving. I won't even want a cigarette, but I'll light one anyway. I think it's just one of those habitual things. I need to find something else. The Bluestones live in Phoenix, a small venue, great show. They're an amazing two-piece band. Never heard of the Bluestones. I'll have to check them out. A lot of good bands out there. That's for sure. Now, whether they're going to be timeless, like Led Zeppelin or the Beatles, or hard to say. You never know. But I'm pretty sure that in 1962, when the Beatles put their first album out, I don't know if there's anybody that could have sat down and said, hey, 50 years from now, people are still going to be listening to this album. I'm pretty sure that the greatest generation, who were the adults then, were probably not so impressed with the Beatles, but the boomers really took to them. And there's still fireworks. I guess people bought more fireworks than they could light off on Friday, and now they're still lighting them off. Sounds of Independence. And I guess it'll go on for a couple of days. You know. All right, I'm going to leave you with one more story. I got a fireworks story. All right, good night, Herb. You want to stick around for my fireworks story? Years ago, read that consider the Beatles to be noise, not music. Yeah, I can see where there would have been a generation that classified the Beatles as noise and not music. But look how it turned out. You know, with the exception of like Glenn Miller, and I can't even rattle off too many others. You know, from the big band era, you know, that are still getting airplay today, that are still, you know, getting listened to today. So, I mean, there's your answer. Is the Beatles noise or is it music? Because the ones that claim that the Beatles were nothing but noise, the stuff that they, yeah, that is a common thing. And with horses too, like Mr. Leatherwood. You know, I got a friend who owns a horse farm, and he said the fireworks drive the horses crazy. You know, it spooks them and scares them, and you know he hates the 4th of July because people all around him like fireworks. But anyway, my fireworks story. I bought these fireworks years ago for New Year's Eve, and I didn't get a chance to light them all off. It was cold as hell, you know, and I lit off a few, and then you know had a bunch left, and then I brought them home and I set them, you know, like next to the deck, and it snowed, and then it warmed up and they got wet, and I figured they were ruined. So, you know, I just left them be, and then several months later, spring started hitting. I was cleaning up the yard. I was like, oh, there's fireworks that I pushed underneath of the deck. I can throw them away. So I scooped them all up and went and put them in the fire pit, and I guess they dried out because all of a sudden fireworks just started shooting in every direction all over my yard. It was freaking hilarious. So there's my fireworks story. Thanks for watching, everybody. I gotta go. I've been rambling on long enough. Had a great time talking to y'all. Keep an eye out for my DIY water filter video. It's going to come up later this week, and I'll try to get some more content up. So, you know, as far as, you know, stuff we talked about, Mr. Leatherwood, a lot more than you can do to prepare. You know, you don't need, you know, a big budget. In fact, I did a budget bug out bag where I ordered everything off Amazon for, you know, well under $200, and I put an emergency bag together. I'd recommend going and watching that, checking that out. It give you an idea of some of the basics that you need. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Again, you know, the training, the practice, making a fire or building a shelter, that's going to be more important than, you know, any of that tactical stuff. Sure, there's a ton of bugs. You know, any of that tactical stuff that, you know, a lot of channels get you to buy. I'm not a big fan. You know, I think simple is better. Knowing how to use what you have is important. So, you know, with that being said, usually on Sundays I try to do my live streams, usually around 8 o'clock or so. I was a little bit late today because I couldn't get the phone to connect inside the house because I have no Wi-Fi, so I had to drag everything out here and do it outside on the deck, hence the crickets in the background and the fireworks and the bugs flying all around in front of me. But hopefully next week we'll be back inside the house where it's a little quieter, and you know I can actually get the computer. Maybe I'll get the scientist to come down and she can monitor the questions in the comments, and you know we'll have a little you know discussion. If the science guy wants to come back in and start dropping science stuff on us, I'm sure she'd be all over that. You know, she loves to talk science, so she also loves to talk music. So until then, like I said, keep your head on a swivel, and we'll see you in the next one.